Have you told your friends that you see ghosts?
Oh, absolutely not.
Gina Rodriguez returns in Not Dead Yet.
I'm back, baby.
Who is that?
Oh, she's the obituary writer.
And Brad Garrett joins the brilliant ensemble cast.
Titan, Maverick, Titan of all Mavericks. These are all words used to describe me.
Not Dead Yet. Season premiere. Tonight, 8:30, 7:30 Central on ABC. And stream on Hulu.
It's the Happy Families podcast. It's the podcast for the time-poor parent who just wants answers now.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Happy Families podcast. My name is Dr. Justin Coulson. I'm here with my wife and mum to our 6 kids. Oh, and grandma to our 1 grandbaby, Kylie. Today is a big kids episode. If you're a parent of kids who are at the end of school or near the end of school, Queensland Schoolies has already begun. I think that New South Wales school leavers arrive on the Gold Coast next week. So today we thought we would have the conversation about the discussions you really want to be having with your kids before schoolies. Mind you, a lot of these discussions need to start a lot earlier than schoolies and school departure. So if you have younger kids, probably worth joining in for the discussion anyway. Before we kick off, Kylie, quick question for you. I think I know the answer to this. We have been married for nearly 26 years. You didn't come from a family that would have been pro-schoolies.
What makes you say that?
Oh, I'm not going to say anything about my mother-in-law on the podcast. I'm just saying I don't think that you were the kind of kid who would have been allowed to go to schoolies.
Well, I'll just let you know that I probably had a better schoolies than most people did.
So did you go to the Gold Coast?
I did not go to the Gold Coast.
Because I was sure I would have heard that story.
My parents were adamant I would not be joining my friends down on the Gold Coast.
That's
and to be honest, it's probably not, I don't remember with great clarity, but I don't think I actually really wanted to go. It wasn't my scene. I wasn't a party girl by any stretch.
So how did you have a better schoolies?
My mum is from New Zealand, and so a lot of my extended family were over there. And I loved growing up in New Zealand as a child, but we had not been back for a long time. So I asked my parents whether I could go and stay with my grandparents and my aunties and uncles and have an extended holiday over there. So I went for 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
6 weeks.
That is a heck of a schoolies.
And I pretty much did the whole North Island.
Yeah, right.
With my uncles and aunties in tow. And I asked my best friend from high school to join me for 2 of those weeks. So we just had an absolute ball, and it was a really, really great trip.
I love the creativity around that. Before you ask me if I went to schoolies, I think that it's worth highlighting as a parent, it's perfectly acceptable to say no. Like so many parents that I speak to say, oh, the kids are going to schoolies. I don't want them to go to schoolies. It's a terrible idea. I think they're going to get in so much trouble, but they're 17 or they're 18 and I can't really stop them. And my answer to that is, well, actually you can. You can say no, or you can say, I don't want you to go. And you can be creative in the way that you do it. Like if you
I was about to say, I actually think it's not so much about saying no. Give them a better yes.
That's what I was going to say. If
Give
you can
them a better yes.
Be creative in the alternatives that you suggest for them, they can probably turn their end of year rite of passage, end of year 12 rite of passage into something far healthier. I know we've gone way off the script of what we were going to talk about, but I just thought it's worth throwing that in, saying as parents, you can give them a better yes. They don't have to go to schoolies. Ask me.
Did you go to schoolies?
No.
You didn't?
I had no interest in it. None whatsoever. But I'll tell you why. I didn't go to schoolies, I think because I didn't really have any friends in high school. I had a very, very challenging time at school. I hated being there. And my relationships with the people that I attended school with were just abysmal as a general rule. And so I know that a lot of them went off to schoolies, but I had no interest in it because I didn't have anyone to go with. I think if I had good friends, I probably would have gone.
But what about your other mates?
We went surfing. We just stayed local and we went surfing. That was kind of all that mattered to us. So let's talk about why kids are going to schoolies. The answer is?
It's a rite of passage, I think. They feel like, they're able to let their hair down, be an adult, make adult decisions, and graduating high school, it's a big deal for them.
Yeah, I'm going to add because all their friends are doing it. And if their friends aren't doing it, then they're going to have no interest in going. But it is part of that whole rite of passage thing. I think also, let's be realistic about it, it's really appealing. It's really attractive. There are so many other kids there who are just like you, same age. And I mean, I'm not going to lie. As a guy, you know that there's going to be so many girls there. And as a girl, you know there's going to be so many guys there. In short, there's going to be somebody there for pretty much everybody. But it's not just amazing because there's freedom and let's be honest, a lot of kids are there because they know that they can do a whole lot of things on the Gold Coast that they can't do at home. And they can do them with wild abandon. There's no accountability or such limited accountability. But it's also terrifying because you've got alcohol and other drugs and you can do what you want. And there are fights and there is behaviour that is not in our children's best interests. It's not necessarily going to be safe behaviour. Yes, there are activities. Yes, it's well organised. Yes, the police are there. But that's only if you're participating that way. And this is the thing, Kylie. Kids want to do stuff. Like they want to do stuff, especially if their friends are there.
Well, there's that whole notion of FOMO, right?
Yeah.
This whole idea of the fear of missing out on what everybody else is doing. That plays a huge part for our teenagers.
One thing that's really fascinating to me, though, when it comes to kids doing things that aren't safe, research shows that the kids who engage in the most sensation-seeking behaviour, if they're going to do one thing that's dangerous, then they're usually going to do more than one thing that's dangerous. Like it's a personality trait. It's an attribute. You're the kind of person who takes risks. That risk-taking, sensation-seeking behaviour is an integral part of what it is to be
you.
Yeah, you. Exactly. And so what you usually find is that some kids just aren't that interested in it. They might do something sensation-seeking now and then, often to placate their sensation-seeking friends and say, okay, yeah, I went and did it. But if you've got a child who's into one thing, good chance they're going to be into kind of everything, or at least wanting to try just about everything. So what we need to do, I think, is recognise that a lot of kids want to be at Schoolies because they do recognise that it's going to be an absolute hoot. It's going to be a total blast, and they're almost certainly going to enjoy an accountability-free week. Our job is to have conversations with them that keep them safe. That's what we do as parents. So let's talk about 3 conversations that we need to have with our children, whether they're leaving school for good or just taking a break and going on holidays, so that we can feel assured that they know the stuff they need to know to be safe.
Well, I love this first one and I love the way you've put it. You've said safe and healthy beats right and wrong. What do you mean by that?
Kids don't like to be told what's right and wrong, especially when they're in their late teens, mid to late teens. It's like, you can't tell me what's right and wrong. I know what's right and wrong. Or you can't tell me something's good and bad. Those morally laden words. Now, let me be really clear. I believe in good and bad. I believe in right and wrong. But when we talk to our teenagers about right and wrong and good and bad, I'll give you a simple example. If you want to talk to your kids about alcohol and other drugs and you say that they are bad and it's wrong, there are going to be a whole lot of them who are thinking, yeah, but I know what all my friends have been doing every Friday night. Maybe they've been joining them as well at the parties or at the park or wherever.
And they're just having a blast.
They're having a great time. Yeah. And so when you say it's bad, they're like, yeah, you reckon it's bad because you're in your 40s or your 50s and you just don't know because you're past
school.
That's
yeah.
Right. And here we are trying to tell them that it's a bad idea and that it's wrong and that they're going to end up in trouble. And they're going, yeah, but my experience and the experience of my friends tells me something completely different. When we talk about safe and healthy behavior, though, it removes the moral element. And it's really hard to argue that taking any kind of drug, whether it's pot or whether it's something far stronger, whether it's dropping tabs or taking cocaine,
chroming,
or just drinking a whole lot of alcohol, you can't say that this stuff is healthy. At no level is it healthy. And at no level is it really arguable that you're going to be safe because you lack the element of control that's so important. So reframing the conversations away from good and bad, right and wrong, removing the morality from it, and just talking about safe, healthy conversations. Or you could add smart if you wanted, safe, healthy, and smart, although smart, again, has that element of judgment associated with it. It just seems to move the needle on the conversations and keep kids attentive and open to what you're saying.
One of the challenging things I've found with our kids over the years is this notion of safety because they think they're invincible. We can see what's up the road based on our own personal experiences and a certain level of maturity, but our kids don't see the dangers. So having those kinds of conversations can still be a little bit tricky, yeah?
Yeah, this is my ladder of life metaphor. The idea is, and we've said this to the kids many times, look, we've climbed 40 plus rungs on the ladder of life, and the view from where we are is pretty incredible, right? Like, we can see a long way. Here's the thing for you: you're 15 or you're 18 and you've climbed all these rungs now, and you can see things that you could never see before, and you are so excited, and you feel like you can see everything now. You can see things so well because you're so high up, forgetting that every year you climb another rung, and every year you get to see that little bit further. You're at rung 15 or you're at rung 18. You can see what's on the ground a little better than me, but I can see over the hills. I can see around the corners. I can see through those shadows because I'm so far up that ladder. I know what's coming your way. So what I want to share with you is, and then we share with them what our concerns are. When it comes to safe and healthy behaviour, this concerns me. What have you seen? What's been your experience? Like, bringing them in and getting them to share their experiences or their friends' experiences, their insights and their reactions to what's going on can make such a difference.
Well, conversation number 2 is about understanding consent.
Okay, so content warning for those of you who are listening with younger children. We are going to speak about physical intimacy for just a minute or two. I've said this so many times now, and I know that you agree with me. Consent is a really low bar. So we need to step into a situation here where we're going to make an assumption based on Australian secondary school statistics that a little over 50% of our Year 12 school leavers have engaged in strong sexual behaviour. Sexual intercourse usually is what those surveys measure. That's a pretty high percentage. That means that we need to talk to our kids about consent, and they need to know one thing more than any other, and that is, if the other person is not excited about it, then you shouldn't be either. That's my one-liner when it comes to teaching kids about consent. Because if they're not excited about it, how are they going to feel about it in 10 minutes' time or in an hour's time or tomorrow or next month or for the rest of their lives? If they're not excited about it, you shouldn't be either. Just don't go there. The kids need to understand that.
So we've had lots and lots of conversations about the differences in development of the male brain and the female brain.
Which is around about 2 years on average at the age group that we're talking about here. Girls are about 2 years more neurologically mature than our boys.
And we've talked about how often the male brain struggles to brake.
And when you say brake, you mean like in a car, slow things down.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. For a second, I was thinking like brake what? Break the window, break the wall, break something. Yeah. How to slow? So guys are generally speaking the accelerator in any kind of sexual encounter, and girls tend to be the brake. It's a huge generalization, but on average, that's the way that it tends to go.
And I know I'm going to be the unpopular one in the room by having this conversation, but for so many years now, we have been teaching our kids about consent, and we've also been teaching them about safe sexual behaviour. But we've stopped having conversations about not engaging.
About abstinence.
And when I engage in these conversations and I hear the kinds of things that take place, and unfortunately it seems, by all accounts, that boys are definitely the accelerator in these kinds of situations.
Generally.
I'm a mum of girls, and I want to do everything I can to keep them safe. And the idea that I would tell them every other option available and leave abstinence off the table doesn't make sense to me. I recognise that kids are going to experiment, that kids they're curious, they want to know what's going on, they want to know how their bodies work and all of those kinds of things. But if I take that off the table, then I've actually taken it out of their toolkit. I haven't given them the whole picture. I haven't allowed them the ability to make more conscious choices. And I think that I, in some ways, have belittled their capacity to make good choices by suggesting that they're going to do it anyway, so let's teach them how to do it safely.
Yeah, this is really important. Kids need to know that saying no is perfectly fine, and that it is not abnormal to be saying no and to be abstaining, whether it's intimacy or in anything. look, I don't like this movie, or I don't want to go for that walk, or I'm not really interested in that person, or I'm not interested in that alcohol or those drugs. It's okay to say no. And putting that on the table and having that discussion with the kids is really valuable. It may prevent them, it may help them to make their own decisions to avoid things that are not going to be in their best interests.
The last conversation is probably the most important.
And it's the easiest one to talk about as well. It's really simple. Your kids need to know that if they're in strife, any strife at any time, they can call you, that you're safe to call, that you're not going to get them in trouble, that you're not going to read them the riot act, that you are going to be there for them. You're not going to be on their back. You're going to have their back. Full stop. End of story.
So if we recap, 3 conversations, safe and healthy beats being right and wrong.
Yep.
Understanding consent and putting abstinence on the table as
Right.
an option for our kids. And lastly, for them to know no matter what, they can call you because you've got their back.
Good luck if your kids are going to Schoolies. I'm sure they'll have a terrific time. I hope they have a safe and healthy time as well. The Happy Families podcast is produced by Justin Rulon from Bridge Media. Craig Bruce is our executive producer. For more about making your family happier, please visit us at happyfamilies.com.au.